Tired of life just happening to you? Sick of your daily routine and want to experience real progress? Tired of cheap hacks and skeptical about anyone trying to give you their 10-cent motivation? Welcome to the ABCs for Purposeful Living podcast, the place that takes the bedrock foundational principles of success and breaks them up into smaller rocks that you can take and use for your own construction, as you build the life of your dreams the way that you want it. Stop living by default. Get busy designing. Let the podcast begin. David Thurmer is an award-winning transformational life coach, leadership expert, and speaker. He's worked with over 100,000 people across 34 countries for the past 10 years, helping them to experience major change in their lives and to implement habits and rituals to ensure that the progress is lasting. Through his immersive seminars, live events, and coaching retreats, he makes you shake down your life, beliefs, and habits to their foundations in order to help you build a more intentional and powerful future. It's these foundations that he is bringing to you week by week in these podcasts, with the goal of helping you, wherever you may be, to get a hold of your life and turn it into something amazing. Welcome to the ABCs of Purposeful Living podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a brand new hot off the press podcast. That's right. This is brand new exclusive content that is out there hitting your mobile phones, laptops, computers, iPhones, iPods, whatever streaming service you may be using right now. Live. My name is David Thurmer, and I am here to present to you this podcast, which is called The ABCs of Purposeful Living. This podcast is a place where you can find the tools that will help you to stop living your life by default and start living it by design. You know, every one of us were designed to live with a purpose. We were designed for a purpose and to live with purpose. Purpose in life is such a huge topic these days. Every speaker, leader, teacher, and thinker is talking about it and its importance to our lives. In fact, if you do a quick Google search right now on the topic of purpose, you will probably get thrown up about 3,640 million results. That's about one link for half of the world's population. This is a very interesting subject that many people in the world want to become acquainted with and want to know about, because we have this innate feeling, we have this thought and concept within our brains that life is supposed to have some purpose. We feel that there has to be a way that we can live intentionally, that we can have a meaning in our life. Purpose, as defined in the dictionary, is the reason for which something is done, created, or for which something exists. So it seems like a pretty important thing to know. But you know what? Majority of us don't know it. I want to share a profound truth with you right now here off the bat as I am setting up this very first episode of the ABCs of Purposeful Living. This first episode, which is the introduction, I want to start off with this very profound truth. And this truth has the power to change your life if you believe it and act upon it. And this is the truth. You ready for it? Here's the truth. Most of us tend to live our lives by default rather than by design. I'll say it again. Most of us live our lives by default rather than by design. Most of us live a reactionary existence. Believe it or not, we react to the things around us. We react to what's on our schedules. We react to the people that we encounter. We react to what's on our to-do list. We react to what is on the menu. We react to what is on television or what is recommended by our streaming service. What do I mean by react? I mean that we take it as it comes and try just to tackle what's currently in front of us. We try to handle the things that are going on around us. We try to fit in everything on our schedules. We try to accommodate each person that crosses our path. We try to check off each item on our to-do lists. We simply eat what's available on the menu. We watch whatever is on that particular channel or streaming service at that moment. Now, this doesn't sound like a bad thing, but what happens over the long term when we live a reactionary existence? When you live a reactionary existence, you do not function the way you should. Let me tell you something. If you were designed for a purpose, if you and I were created to have some sort of purpose here on this earth, if you are not living that purpose intentionally, if you are not finding a way to get that purpose out and live it in the world, you will not be able to function the way that you should. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever tried to wash dishes with a lawnmower? Or clean the toilet with a chimney? Or cook an egg on your Xbox? If you try that, you will only end up with disaster. Now, sure, you're a creative human being. I'm sure you can find a way to adapt your lawnmower to dishwashing, and I'm sure you can find a way, if you heat your Xbox up enough, you could probably cook the egg on it. But your Xbox will never achieve its full potential because it hasn't been designed for cooking eggs. It has been designed for the world of gaming. Your lawnmower was not meant to wash dishes. It was designed to keep the grass in your front lawn trimmed. It was designed to keep the outside looking manicured and new. Everything is designed for a purpose, and no matter how hard we try to cram it to be used for another type of purpose, it will not function properly. It'll only be operating in a limited capability. If you want to know everything that something is capable of, you need to see what it is designed for. In order to find out everything that you, the person who is sitting here on this podcast right now, listening to this, the only way that you can find out everything that you were designed for, let me tell you, you need to know what is your purpose, and you need to start taking that purpose and living it out intentionally. Taking your life and stop reacting to it, stop living by default, and start living by design. Because when you aren't living a purpose-filled existence, you are not functioning properly. You will feel dissatisfied, grumpy, stressed out of place, disoriented, unchallenged, unfulfilled, and you will even feel like your existence is pointless, because that is not what you have been designed for. If you are facing any of these things that I've just mentioned, dissatisfaction, grumpiness, stress, feeling out of place, feeling disoriented, feeling unchallenged, feeling unfulfilled, or feeling that your existence is pointless, maybe you are operating in a function that does not align with who and what you were designed to be. Because without purpose, there can be no hopefulness in life. For example, say your boss comes in one Saturday morning and calls you and says, "Hey, I know you're not supposed to be working today, but I am sending a FedEx to your house. And in this FedEx, there are 10,000 envelopes. And before you come back into work on Monday morning, you have to sort out every single one of these 10,000 envelopes. It's no overtime pay, it's just weekend work." What is your reaction right now? You're resentful, you're upset, you're stressed out, a string of 4-letter words are proceeding from your mouth, and you just feel like, what a god-awful job, what a god-awful boss. How on earth did I get stuck with this? You would feel that this was the worst weekend ever. But what if your boss told you that in one of those envelopes there was a $10,000 bonus check for you, and that if you found it, you could keep it? What's your attitude now? Every single envelope that you open is like opening up a chocolate bar. Every single envelope that you open becomes like opening a present on Christmas Day. Why? Because suddenly there is purpose in what you are doing. Suddenly there is hope because now you are not just randomly doing a series of functions, you are doing something with purpose. Purpose produces hope. Let me give you another example. Just imagine being a doctor, and a woman comes into your office, and the woman says, "I'm not feeling so good. I've been feeling like this for the past couple of days. Something's not really right with me." And then you look over and you examine her, and then you say, "Okay, what you have is a very common occurrence. And this occurrence is going to make your waistline grow 10 inches over the next course of the year. And not only is your waistline going to grow about 10 inches, you're also going to put on about 30 to 40 pounds in the next few months." Now, if you tell this to a woman, what's she going to do? Break down and cry? Probably punch you in the face? Why? Because no woman wants to be told that their waistline is going to grow by 10 to 12 inches and that they're going to put on 30 to 40 pounds in the next couple of months. But let me tell you something. My mom has been told this 9 times in her life, and every time she's gone back with a massive smile on her face. And millions of women around the world every day are told the same thing, and they suddenly go back with a beaming smile of joy. Why? Because this condition that they have is called pregnancy. And there is a little life inside them that is growing that will one day become a child. And that child will bring a whole new dynamic to their lives and will help to create a family. Again, the conditions are same. The difference is the perception of the purpose. Purpose gives hope to your life. And that's why a very wise man once said, he said, "A life without purpose is meaningless, but a life with purpose is the most enjoyable life of all." Unless you can find your purpose, you're not going to be very effective in your life. But once you find it, it's as if the light comes on in your soul and you just go crazy with it. And a side effect of a purpose-filled life, a side effect of a life filled with purpose, a side effect of living your purpose to the full, you know what that is? You might just end up changing the world as a result. Because that's what people who change this world do. That's how they are made. They discovered their purpose and they live it out in every day of their life. And they end up changing the world. If you don't believe me, go do some research for yourself. The bedrock foundation of every person who has ever changed the world was a deep-rooted purpose that manifested itself in their everyday actions every single day. And that's the purpose of our podcast. The ABCs of Purposeful Living is to help you to discover the components to put into place for your life so that you can build a purpose and then let that purpose translate into your everyday actions. There are 4 levels of living life. Our life is not a race. Life is a journey, and it's a journey of mastery that takes you through a series of levels. Now, you've heard this journey analogy used many different times. I want to give you a bit of a different spin on it. Imagine life as a computer game. Now, if life were a computer game, there would be 4 levels to it. However, unlike a regular computer game that pushes to complete a level then move on to the next one, life is rather different. It would be completely possible to live on the same level or the same floor your whole life and never venture beyond that door and up the stairs to the next level. We often settle for our level based on what it provides to our system of values and how it ties in with our current identity. If it brings comfort, security, a sense of self, and an explainable definition to our daily existence, we settle into it, and it becomes our comfort zone. Regardless of how good or bad or happy or painful or prosperous or mediocre, we settle in without question because we find our values and identity attach themselves to it without us often knowing. So it's completely possible for you to spend your entire life in one of these levels without ever having the opportunity to move beyond it. But you, my friend, I have no doubt that you would want to move beyond that level because we have a deep craving within our souls to grow. We have a deep craving within our souls to progress. We have a deep craving within our souls to make something greater of our lives and make something greater out of our existence because true happiness comes from progress. True happiness comes from becoming something more than what we are. And so, we want to master this game of life. We want to master this journey of life. And so, in order to master it, we have to look at, first of all, what are the levels that are available to us in this game. Alright, imagine, as a gamer, if you get stuck in one level and you replay that level every day, what would you do? You'd quit the game, right? First, you'd try every single door and avenue possible to get to the next level. You'd probably break all the furniture to see if there was a trapdoor hidden underneath. You'd grab all that you could find and toss it, drink it, eat it, stamp on it, and throw it to see if a portal would open. And if that wouldn't work, you would go onto YouTube and try to find a video of someone explaining on how to get to the next stage. If that doesn't work, you would call your gamer friends and ask them to help. And if that doesn't work, you probably would begin Googling cheat codes or program cracks to help you bypass the damn level. And finally, if all else fails, you would quit and leave the game. Hopefully, without throwing the television through the window, although I have personally seen people who have done this. That's because we feel we got to keep moving. There is a purpose and a meaning to the game that we're playing, and there's a reason why we are playing it, and that reason is not found by sitting on your ass in the middle of a level because you like it here. No, it's found by traversing the path over various levels in order to get to the next destination, because there things become clearer and more of the story is revealed. There is a purpose and meaning to your life as well, but you're not going to find it by staying in the same level the whole time. Your purpose is found by traversing your path through the levels in order to reach the next destination, because there things become clearer and more of your story is revealed. What are these 4 levels of life? I'm going to give them to you shortly. First one is the survival level. The second one, the sustenance level. The third one, the success level. The fourth one, the significance level. Survival, sustain, success, significance. The 4 levels of life. Let us walk through them in brief. The first one, the survival level, is the very basic level of human existence. Human psychology and physiology tells us that we require 3 basic things to survive. Sustenance, which is food and water. Shelter, clothing and housing. And sex, which is companionship. This is the primitive hardwiring of the human brain. Strip away everything from a human, including their dignity, and they will do everything in their power to get one of these 3 things. Shipwreck them on an island, and you will see this played out. Throw people into a war zone, or go to a refugee camp, and you will see this played out. Visit an area where a natural disaster has occurred, and you will see this played out. That's because a human being is hardwired for survival and will do whatever it takes to get these three components that it considers essential to the preservation of life: sustenance, shelter, and companionship. This is what we see in Tom Hanks' character in the movie Castaway. If you've seen the movie Castaway, you will know that this is true. He survives all those years on his island with food, his makeshift house, and his football, who he's named Wilson. His three basic needs. This is the survival level of living. And you will often see people stuck in this level their entire lives, where their every single choice, every single decision, every single day revolves around: how do I get my sustenance? How can I ensure my shelter? And how can I be sure that I have sex and companionship? And some people, regardless of where they live in this world, will never move beyond that level because they are hardwired to always try to survive. Let's move on. What is the next level of living? The sustenance level of living is a step above the survival level, but it's not that much higher. Whereas in the survival zone, a human may be fighting each day for every morsel of food and for each place to stay and for every significant encounter with another human being, in the sustenance level, these things are more readily available. You've achieved another important basic of life: stability. There is not as much of a fight to get each of these components of life. But you know what? There is no abundance. There is no overflow. There is no increase. It is the same daily routine for the same daily reward. This is where we get the example of the rat race, just doing the same things every day to receive the same reward. It's not a constant life versus death struggle to get everything that you need, because stuff is readily available. But you still have to work for it, and your focus never moves off acquiring four things. As we said, sustenance, shelter, companionship, and now stability. In these things you have it, you are feeling stable. You don't have an abundance, you don't have an overflow, you don't have an increase, you're not experiencing success, but you are getting the same daily reward for the same daily routine. Running the rat race every day to get your piece of cheese. Second level of living, the sustaining level. The third level of living is the success level. But a vast majority of human beings do not get to that level. Most of them remain stuck in the two levels, the survival and the sustaining. And if you look in your own life and you look at the lives of those in your friend circle, you look at the lives of people around you, you observe the lives of people in the movies that you watch or the television serials that you watch or in the books you'll read, you will start to see, if you're really and truly critically thinking, that a majority of people you know generally fall into these particular categories. They are either living in a survival mode or they are living in a sustaining mode. But there is not much happiness to be found in either one of those levels. Now let's move on to another level. The third level, the success level. At this success level, this is when you start seeing things a little bit more abundantly. This is when you start having more than enough of these things. You have more than enough opportunities for sustenance. You have more than enough avenues to receive your sustenance and the daily things that you need. You have more than enough avenues for shelter. You probably have a home of your own. You probably have a multitude of homes in different places, or the financial ability to be able to stay in different places or take holidays or vacations whenever you want. You have multiple options for sex and companionship that you can probably obtain from many different places. You not only have stability, you have success. And this is a level of living that most people look up to and they feel that they want to aspire to, because it would be nice to have the stability, both financially and emotionally and physically, to be able to have all the things that we want, where we wouldn't just have to survive, where we wouldn't just have to sustain, but where we can actually be successful and start experiencing all these different things. However, even here, on this very lucrative level, there are those who are stuck, because in the success level of living, it is never enough. Things are never enough. There is never enough sustenance. There is never enough shelter. There is never enough sex and companionship. There is never enough stability. There is never enough success. There is never enough money. There's never enough experiences. You always have to keep trying to do more, get more, find more, because you define your existence based on that. And so even here, in this highly lucrative level, there is still unhappiness. There is still sadness. There is still a feeling of insecurity. There is still a feeling of not having enough. There's got to be another level. You know what? There is. The next level, the fourth level of life, is the significance level of life. The significance level of life. Here there is happiness. Here there is joy. Here there is peace. And get this, the significance level of life, before I tell you about it, the significance level of life is not just a level all on its own. It's a level that can go in between all the other levels. Anybody from any place, whether you're in the survival level of life, whether you are in the sustaining level of life, or whether you are in the success level of life, you can still find a way, no matter what your level, to jump into the significance level of life. It's not like you have to pass through all the other levels to get to it. No matter where you are, you can get there. And on the significance level, there is happiness, there is joy, and there is peace, regardless of your social standing, regardless of your financial standing. What is the secret to the significance level? The secret to the significance level of life is finding a way to leave a positive contribution. You know, if you listen to Tony Robbins, and by the way, I would recommend you get a chance, listen to Tony Robbins' podcasts. If you get a chance, watch his videos. You get a chance to read his books, please go read his books. You get a chance, and you can afford it, to attend one of his live sessions, I would highly, highly recommend it to go and attend his live session. But he does this thing where he talks about the 7 basic needs of life. And while I'm not going to go over them because I want you to go be able to look at them from him, but he says that out of all the 7 basic needs, there are 2 ones that stand above everything else. The need for love and the need for contribution. We feel completely and the most at happy, and we feel the most at peace when we are making a positive contribution to something else. And when we feel that we are growing alongside somebody else. This is when significance comes into play. And let me tell you, you can only experience growth and you can only experience contribution and significance when you are living your purpose. When you are living in the way that you were designed to live. Do you need to have all the money in the world? Or all the shelter in the world, or all the sustenance in the world, or all the opportunities in the world in order to experience significance? No. You can start right now at whatever level you're in. Maybe you might be in the survival level, you might be in the sustaining level, you might even be in the success level. But today, you can start to move into experiencing significance. You can start moving into experiencing life on this level through finding ways to grow and finding ways to make a contribution. Because that is what we are after. And that is the goal of this podcast. We are going to give you the roadmap to move into the significance level of living your life. Because we want you to take control. We want you to take control of your life. Take control of your destiny. Take control of your calling. Take control of where your life is going, and turn the life that you have right now, the life that you might not be happy with and that you might be frustrated with, take it and turn it into something of great value. You might say, I can't do that. I don't have any control over my life. First of all, that's not a good attitude to have, because helplessness is one of the worst feelings in the world. We need to feel in control of our lives, whether or not you realize it. We each have a desperate need to feel in control of our situations. If we don't have control, we feel anxious, we feel scared, we feel uncertain, and some of us just plain downright miserable. Let me tell you something. While you cannot control your circumstances, what you can control are your decisions. What you can control is the way that you react to things. You have complete and utter control over your own choices, and you can choose to live intentionally and decisively. The situations and circumstances don't have to be ideal for you to have the right attitude and for you to make the right decisions. Can you control your circumstances? No. Can you control things around you? No. But what you can control is yourself. And that's what we want you to take control of. We want you, through this podcast, to learn how to take control of your life. Because that is currently within your power. You know, one thing I've heard a lot of, and this is something that I hear more and more of as time goes on, people always say, oh, I'm waiting for my life to change. I would like to experience change. I would like to see change. I would like to see change in my family. I would like to see change in my work. I would like to see change. And I just stopped them there. I was like, whoa. Stop right there. Stop saying that. Stop saying that. You don't need to see change. Let me tell you something. Change is automatic. Things are going to change whether you want them to or not. The environment changes whether you want it to or not. Society changes whether you want it to or not. Economics change whether you want it to or not. Your body changes whether you want it to or not. Your family changes whether you want it to or not. That's just the way life is. Anything that is living is constantly adapting and changing. And the world around you is always changing. So you don't need to work on change, because change is automatic. But you know what's not automatic? Progress. Progress is not automatic. Progress is a choice. And progress is a choice that we make every single day to grow with the change. As the world changes, will you be left behind by it, or will you evolve to overcome it? That is what makes you successful. That is what puts you in control of your own life and your own destiny, because you take it in the palm of your hand and you run forward with it. And that's what we want to do with this podcast. I want to give you the tools to be able to grab your life and take control of it and build it into the life that you want. I don't know what you want to build with your life, but guess what? You can build so many things on it. Now, the sky is the limit. We live in an era of time. We live in a culture across the world where it is possible to literally do almost anything. Never before in history have we had the opportunities that we have right now today. For art, for culture, for entrepreneurship, for commerce, for anything, you name it. The sky is the limit. But the foundation has to be built before you can get on top of that. And so through this series, why I have decided to call it the ABCs of Purposeful Living is because through this series, I'm going to give you basic building blocks for a purpose-filled, successful life. What you build on top of that is your choice. We are just here to give you the foundations. When you start learning any language, the very first place you start is the alphabet. That famous movie, Sound of Music? They taught us that very classic line, when you read, you begin with ABC. That's exactly the truth. Whenever you learn any language, you always start with the alphabet. So too with success. You have to start from the foundational principles if you want to build on top of it. And so, in this series, I am going to give you every week another letter, starting with A, going all the way to Z. And with every week, we're going to focus on one principle based on that letter. And that's to help you, if you take these principles, inculcate them into your life, and then take them and use them to form your daily habits and form your daily routines, you will start experiencing success. And then you will start experiencing significance. And then you can go and do whatever you want with your life. Build whatever you want on top of it. We're just here to help you get the foundation right. Because if your foundation isn't sure, your house won't stand. When I was a kid, one of my teachers told me a very interesting parable. And he said that there's two ways you can build your life. You can build your life on a rock, or you can build your life on the sand. Now, building on the sand is easy. There's not much required work for digging. All the material is readily available. Sand is usually lower ground, so you don't really have to carry anything up. You can just roll it right down. Your house will probably get done in half the time. Building on a rock is difficult. You have to go and dig very, very deeply, and it takes days, weeks, months, and years to dig into solid rock. And then because it's on a rock, it's elevated, so you have to carry all the material up there. It's back-breaking work. And to build your house will probably take you 2, 3, 4, 5 times the amount of time as the guy who's going and building down in the sand. But one day a storm's going to come. And when that storm comes, it'll test the foundation of both those houses. Now, before the storm comes, the person who's building the house on the rock will be questioning, why on earth am I wasting my time doing all this, getting my foundation strong and firm? But on that day when the storm comes, the house that is in the sand gets washed away. The house that is on the rock endures. And that is when you realize you have to have a solid foundation in order to experience success and significance in life. If you want your work to stand, if you want your life to stand, you need to have a core foundation of principles to build it on, which you can find your purpose and where you can allow that purpose to play itself out into your everyday actions and into your everyday routines, because storms will come for all of us, and they will always come when we least expect it. Will your work stand? Will your life stand? It all depends on whether or not you've taken the time to build a solid foundation. I want you to use this podcast series like a guidebook, like a compass, to give you directions for how to apply it into your life. The principles that we're going to be talking about, the things that we're going to be covering, they are timeless, and they they carry across throughout time and across situations to everywhere else in the world. And it's like, if you follow them and if you actually think about them and try to apply them, it will be like a guidebook. It will be like a compass. It'll be like a map. It was a very funny story. In November 1975, down in Mexico, 75 people were condemned to life imprisonment. And they decided that they didn't want to be there anymore. They wanted to escape. And so, they slowly started digging a tunnel. And they dug, and they dug, and they dug for 6 months. 6 months non-stop, all 75 of them working in shifts, digging a tunnel through the dirt and the mud, trying to see where they would end up. On April 18th, 1976, 6 months after they started digging, by sheer genius, the end of the tunnel opened up. And you know where those 75 prisoners climbed out? Into the courtroom where they had been sentenced a year earlier. Imagine their complete shock and utter horror when, after 6 months of digging, their way of escape turned out to be in the very courtroom where they had been sentenced. They shocked everyone in there. All the guards and all the judges were absolutely alarmed to see them. All of them were immediately arrested and put back in prison. I can bet you that at that moment, any one of them could have killed to have a map or a compass, just so they could know that they were digging in the right direction, instead of wasting all their effort and ending up in the wrong place. Stephen Covey said a very beautiful thing in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. He said that it's possible to spend your entire life climbing the ladder of success only to realize that that ladder is leaning on the wrong wall. So we don't want your efforts to be wasted. We don't want your house to be one in the sand that'll be washed away when the rain comes. We are here to give you the principles that you can use as a foundation by which you can build your life on. Now, not everything will apply to you, but I'm going to leave you with 2 illustrations. Because I love illustrations, I love mental pictures, and I love the ideas that they give. So, picture a flower. Okay? If you have a paper, I hope you're listening to this with some sort of writing device next to you, because I actually want this to be something that not just goes into your ears, but something that actually goes into your brain. And generally what gets it into your brain is you having the opportunity to take notes and write it down. But if you have a paper, or you can pull up a document on your computer or on your phone screen, I want you to draw a flower. That's right. Of course you know how to draw a flower. We've all drawn flowers. It was one of the first things that we learned as kids. We learned stick figures. We learned how to draw a sun and the mountains and a little river. And we learned to draw trees, and then we learned how to draw flowers. This is a standard thing that I think every single human being around this world, when they first learn how to draw, learns. So you know how to draw a flower. Draw the flower. All right? Now that you've drawn the flower, there are 4 components that the flower needs. It needs air, it needs water, it needs soil, and it needs the sun. And there's one thing more, alright? It needs manure, fertilizer. 5 things. Every flower needs these 5 things: air, water, sunlight, soil, manure. However, does it always need all these 5 things in the exact same proportion to one another? No. You cannot do a ratio 1:5 when it comes to growing plants. It needs a certain amount of sunlight, it needs a certain amount of water, it needs a certain amount of air, it needs a certain amount of soil, it needs a certain amount of manure. And it needs it all in different proportions to one another. And get this, it needs all of it at different proportions in its life. When it is a little seed and you plant it into the ground, it needs very little sunlight, but a whole lot of soil, a whole lot of manure, and a whole lot of water. Otherwise, the seed will dry out. It needs that extra moisture to germinate and start growing roots. However, once it starts popping out of the soil and once it starts growing, it needs less water and less soil and more sunlight. Otherwise, it'll be stifled. It'll start to suffocate. It will start to die. And so, at various points of a flower's life, it will require different things in different proportions, in different levels. That is true because it is a living thing. And some things seem beautiful and awesome, like the sunlight and the beautiful wind. And some things seem painful. And other things just seem downright disturbing, like the manure, that's smelly animal dung. But all of it's necessary for the flower to grow. Let me tell you something. Each of us, our lives, and our success are like flowers. We all need different things in our lives. The principles that we are going to be sharing through this podcast are going to be like the air, the water, the soil, the sunlight, and the manure. Some of them might be beautiful. Some of them might be a little bit hard to take. And some of them might just be downright difficult for you to apply in your life. And you might say, oh, well, that was a shitty concept. Because literally that's what manure is. It's a shitty concept. But it is still as essential. Now, sometimes one of these weeks, the call might be, oh my God, this is exactly what I needed. When you get off the podcast, you will be mind blown and say, this is exactly what I wanted. This is exactly what my heart has been craving this whole time. Thank you so much for that. I can't wait to go out and do it. And there'll be other weeks when you're like, what on earth was that? That didn't make any sense. Why did I bother even wasting my time listening to it? You know, I am under no delusions of grandeur that every single one of my podcasts every week are going to get deep into your heart and change your life, because I know that's not practical, because I know that all of you are at different stages of your journey. All of you are at different stages of your flower growing. And so you might need the sunlight today. You might not need the sunlight today. Maybe you need some extra wind. Maybe you need some extra water. Maybe you need the manure. But someone else might need it. And so what I would encourage you to do is, if you listen through this podcast, if you can join me on this journey as we go through all these different things, these 26 different principles for the ABCs of success, if you go through them, some of them might not apply to you right away. And that's okay. Because you might not need them at this stage of your growth. But don't forget them. Hold on to them, because one day you will need them and come back to them. And some things may apply to you instantly. Be grateful for those things and don't think, oh wow, so all of these things are applying to me. I must be very far off in my journey. No, that's not true either. All these things are foundational. Once you start putting them in place, you will experience growth. You will experience development. You will start experiencing yourself growing into the future. And so, what I want you to do is be like that flower and take in what you need, because everything that we will share is to help you to grow. Second principle, and I am going to close with this. Have you ever seen a prism? You must have seen it in school, in your science class. If you haven't seen one, do a Google search. If you have a chance, go down to one of those science stores. You can buy it there. A prism. Light to the eyes is white. However, when light is refracted through a prism, it breaks into the colors of a rainbow. If you shine a light on a mirror, you only get white light back. This is called reflection. If you shine light on a prism, it breaks into the 7 colors of the rainbow. This is called refraction. When we talk about these principles, I am giving you the overarching global view of these things applicable to anyone in the world. The principle is still sound. The principle is very true, but its application will vary from country to country, from culture to culture, from person to person, from household to household, from situation to situation. Why? Because every situation is different, every country is different, every circumstance is different, every culture is different, and every person is different as well. You cannot take exactly what I'm saying and use it in your own way, exactly the way that I have presented it. Why? Because that is reflection. And reflection does not always work. I don't want you to reflect my words. I want you to refract my words. I want you to be like a prism. I want you to be able to take in those words as white light and break them into all the colors of the rainbow, and let those colors shine on all aspects of your life. So listen to it, think about it, meditate on it, and see how this is applied in your own situation. And when you apply it in your situation, you will start building a stronger foundation. Once you start building a stronger foundation, you can start experiencing success. You can start experiencing significance. You will start experiencing growth. And when you start doing that, you'll start experiencing joy, because joy comes from contribution. Joy comes from growth. And so, I hope that you will take this journey with me. This is David Thurmer, signing off on ABCs of Purposeful Living, episode number 1, which was an introduction. Join me next week for episode number 2, which is our first principle, which is A for awareness. We will see you next week. Until then, take care, and God bless.
Thank you for joining us today on the podcast. Please do subscribe for more. If you found this helpful, please share it with someone else. Pass the help along. David is always eager to hear from you and would love to work with you in a more hands-on way. For more information, please visit our website at www.davidthirimer.com. That's www.davidthirimer.com.